What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. Before I begin, let me say thank you to all my Patreon supporters. You allow me to make more and better videos. I've kind of picked and chose certain books here and there for certain videos lately, but I haven't done kind of a comprehensive look at what the market is doing for CGC-Graded Star Wars comic books. Key issues dating back to Star Wars #1, which is what you see here in front of you right now, all the way to more recent releases. And I thought it'd be good to kind of give you an overview of what the market is doing as we head into the Book of Boba Fett. As you guys know, the Star Wars comic book market, just like the rest of the comic book market, prices are greatly affected by what's going on in terms of movies and TV shows and things like that. And Star Wars has been in kind of a lull lately. There hasn't been much out there. Obviously, the Mandalorian Season 2 finished up, Bad Batch Season 1 finished up, and we're kind of waiting right now for the Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mandalorian Season 3. There's just a lot of stuff that hasn't come out yet that's kind of in production. But finally, we're getting, about two and a half weeks from now, we're going to be getting the Book of Boba Fett. And so let's take a look at what prices have done, because prices have moved up a little bit. They really hit bottom, I'd say, about a month or two ago. And when I say bottom, I'm talking about they got towards prices pre January of 2021. They got back to kind of those prices, and certainly not true for all books. There's certainly still some key issues like Star Wars 1 and a few others that really haven't changed or gone down that much in price, if at all, and in some cases have gone up. But a number of other issues did take a pretty good lull there, and as more information is coming out about all these new series, we're starting to see things heat up again. So let's start with Star Wars #1, first printing, white pages, CGC 9.8. What a gorgeous book. This has got an older style case, but we haven't seen a Star Wars CGC 9.8 sell at auction in a while, and at least on eBay. I'm sure there's been a number of them on Comic Link or Hakes or some of those other websites, but I like to use eBay data when possible, just because I think it captures a lot of folks that maybe don't even know about some of those other websites, and it gives a pretty broad audience in terms of who's firing off bids on these. And this one sold for $5,101. That's a high price. This was back in November 30th too, so let's call that about a little over a week ago. And that's kind of when the market started heating back up again. I'd say a week or two ago is when the market really started going. And that number is a little bit more than where we've been seeing this book sell, both on Comic Link and elsewhere. It's been kind of in that $400 to $4,500 range for a 9.8. And again, everything I'm going to be showing today is on a 9.8 grade, just because it's easier to track prices apples to apples. But adjust your budget accordingly if you're looking for a certain book. And this $5,100 number was quite a bit higher than I expected, but I just hadn't had a chance to talk about it yet. But it looked like a really nice, clean copy, but it wasn't an older style case, so I'm a little surprised it went that high. But that's the number, for the book that started it all. Now here's one that I hadn't talked about before, but I think it's where if Star Wars #1 is out of your budget, which it is for most of us in a 9.8 anyway, obviously you can go down in lower grades, or if you want to keep to the 9.8s, one option is Star Wars #39, which is part 1 of The Empire Strikes Back. So you get the first part of the second movie instead of the first part of the first movie, and the price point is a lot more attractive, and that price has come down quite a bit. This one just sold here recently for $389.95 plus $15 shipping, so about $400. But this book has gotten up, during the peak of the market, into that $550 to $600 range. So it's pulled back a little bit, and I think now's a good time to consider this one if you're really collecting 9.8 books for investments or whatever, just part of your collection. For me, Star Wars #1 is probably outside of my budget unless I really saved up quite a bit. I'd probably have to save up for a while in order to get a 9.8 Star Wars #1. Probably not going to happen in my book. So I'm either going to go lower grade, or I could consider this book. But I just think it's a great cover. It's the beginning of The Empire Strikes Back, and I just think in general this book has a lot of potential, because The Empire Strikes Back really, in my mind, with most collectors, that's considered like the ultimate movie. And the other interesting thing is that if you look at the census, the CGC census that tracks the number of different books at different grades, Star Wars number 39, there's 191 9.8 grades out of 818 that have been graded. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that the 9.8 ratio for Star Wars number 39 is only about 25%. So about 25% of all books that have been graded by CGC are 9.8s, and that's a pretty low number, really, in my mind. So I know it's an older book; it's 1980, so it is going to be, in that 30% and below range usually when you have something this old. But I think that to get one of 191 for the first, for the comic book adaptation, part one of The Empire Strikes Back, that's a pretty nice book to have, in my opinion. And it's a great cover. I mean, it's one thing if the cover wasn't good, but you got Darth Vader there holding his lightsaber with all the Star Destroyers and the capital ship behind him. You got the Empire Strikes Back logo. It's a pretty awesome book to have in your collection, and that's on my short list, I think, to add, because it's kind of flying under the radar, and I just feel like, as Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen's going to make his way back in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. They brought him back. I just think that the nostalgia that Darth Vader brings, that, there's a lot of collectors out there that focus on Vader, myself included. And I just think that the potential for some of these early books with Darth Vader on the cover could do really well. So that's just a personal opinion on it. Another one that really hasn't gone down at all in value, and it makes sense with the Book of Boba Fett coming out, and that's Star Wars number 42. It creeped up towards about $4,000, maybe even a little bit over that during the very peak of the market in April and May of this year. But it's still holding steady right around between $3,000 and $3,500 is kind of the going rate for a CGC 9.8, the direct edition. If you got a newsstand edition where it has the UPC code down here instead of Spider-Man's face, that's still going closer to $5,000. That's where it's been selling pretty consistently across different sales platforms. But this one, it had a little bit of an overwrap. You can see there on the left-hand side, the binding's kind of overwrapped on that side. And, so it's kind of a miscut, if you will. So I don't know. I think that this was a little bit of, in my opinion, a little bit of an overpay, because I think you can probably get a cleaner example for that same price. But it's just another data point, because this did sell on December 4th, which was 4 days ago. So that's the latest and greatest. But I think if you buy any Boba Fett related books right now, you're going to be paying top dollar. Usually with the prices of key issues related to someone who's coming out in a new series or a new movie, the price points are always at their peak right before the first episode or the new movie drops. So to me, I would wait. I have a feeling that if you wait 6 months until after season 1 of the Book of Boba Fett is done, maybe you'll get a better deal. That's just my opinion. Who knows? Here's another one that's in my collection. I don't have the newsstand. This is the newsstand edition. I've just got the direct edition, but this is the first appearance of Lando Calrissian in comics, Star Wars number 43. It's also the second comic book appearance of Boba Fett. So, a kind of a minor key for Boba Fett, but obviously a major key if you're into Lando, because we all know that Lando's coming out with is his name, Donald Glover. They're going to be doing a young Lando TV show on Disney Plus, or at least a series of some sort. And this is one that's really held its value pretty well. The direct edition has been going for $850 to $900 usually. Excuse me, the newsstand edition has been going for $850 to $900 lately. Now, 130 Point, which is the website I use for checking best offer accepted, is down right now. They're doing maintenance, and I've heard there's like a Chrome add-on you can do. I'm not computer savvy, folks. I can't figure all that stuff out. So 130 Point is what I usually use because it's easy to do it, but it's down right now, so I couldn't see what the best offer accepted was on this one. But I'm guessing it's probably in that $900 range, because the last couple I've seen of the newsstand edition of Star Wars 43 have been $875 to $900. The direct edition, which I have, has been kind of selling $500 to $550, maybe $600 on their upper end. But that's one to kind of consider right now, I think, because there's not really much noise being made about Lando, the new Lando show. It's probably at least a year off, if not more, from production. So to me, if you can find a good deal at an auction for the direct or the newsstand, depending on your budget and depending on what grade, I would consider that one, because it's a great cover. It's got all the main heroes on the cover. Betrayal at best, but it's just a fantastic book, and I think that at $500 or so for the direct edition, that's a pretty good long-term investment, and that's why I bought it. I mean, I bought it just because I really believe that book's going to go up. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I don't care. It's really awesome books to have in your collection if you're a Star Wars fan. Now here's another one in my collection. I don't think I've shown it yet on the channel. I showed it in a live stream over on Only One Kenobi's channel, but I just haven't gotten around to pulling it out yet for my own channel. But this is Star Wars number 81. This is the direct edition. Please don't pay this number. Please don't pay $840 for the direct edition of Star Wars number 81. You know, this book was kind of really not considered a major key, really, for the longest time. You know, even up until I'd say early this year, maybe late last year, before that, you know, we saw that finale post credits with the Boba Fett, knowing that he's coming back for his own show. But kind of before that show, this book was really not that expensive, and it has gone up a little bit, but $840 is too much. Don't pay that number. And this is a classic case of FOMO, in my opinion. No offense if you were the buyer of this book, but $840 is way too much. I maybe consider that price right now in a newsstand edition, but $840 for the direct edition is way too much money. Give it 6 months, you'll be able to pick that up for under $500 is my guess. I paid $500 even for mine. It's a great cover, don't get me wrong. I think it's worth having in your collection, but you know, it's the return of Boba Fett. Are they really going to pull from this book? And there's not really much to pull from as it relates to Boba Fett and the Sarlacc pit from this book. So I don't know how much they're really going to pull from it. I hope they do. Don't get me wrong. I hope the book continues to do well, but you know, $500 or under is probably a more reasonable number to aim for this book. I don't know if you'll get that right now, though. You probably won't find that right now, just given all the hype surrounding the Book of Boba Fett. So give it 6 months. Give it maybe a little bit even less than that until after the first season's done and all the kind of heat is cooled off, hopefully, for this book, and you can pick it up for a lot cheaper. Going on to a few other kind of more recent releases. Those are kind of all the vintage Marvel books. I wanted to kind of start getting into Dark Horse, and then we're going to swing back to Marvel, you know, modern books. But this is one that's on my short list. This is Star Wars Jedi, Mace Windu, unnumbered. That's what the pound and in means. It means no number, so it's just a one-off, one shot. You can see there in the corner there it says one shot. So this is a singular book, but it happens to also be the first appearance of Asajj Ventress. So there's been a lot of hype around Asajj Ventress and that fact that we're probably going to see her maybe in the Ahsoka series. Who knows? But this book has held its value really well and has not gone down really much. $550 to $609, which is what this one recently sold for. This just sold yesterday at $609. It was on my short list, and I don't know. I mean, no offense to Samuel L. Jackson, it's just not a very dynamic cover. It's just a close up of his face, and he looks angry. He's got that classic snakes on a plane look on his face, and I don't know. To me, this cover is not that exciting, but it is the first appearance of Asajj Ventress, so it's one to consider. I've already covered a number of other Asajj Ventress books in other videos that I think are worth looking at. Star Wars High Republic 52, I believe, is the number that has her on the cover. But if you want a first appearance, this is the book to get, and it's the most expensive. $609 is the going rate as of yesterday for Star Wars Jedi Mace Windu, the one-shot. Here's another one that a lot of people don't talk about, but I think it's worth considering if you're into Darth Revan and Darth Malak. There's been a lot of rumors that they're going to be bringing out a series, or he's going to be making one or both of those are going to be making appearances in some shows. So a lot of rumors surrounding it, but this is the first appearance of Squint, and Squint eventually becomes Darth Malak. So this, you know, I don't know if this book will do much, but it's a great cover, and it's kind of before Squint becomes Darth Malak. But in a 9.8, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic / Rebellion 0, book 0, and you know, you can pick it up for $150. So to me, this is a good deal. This is a really good one to pick, just to hold in your collection and just see what happens with it. I had it on my list. I was really thinking about it, but money is a problem right now for me. So I couldn't go for it, but I do think this is a book to consider, because it's kind of, I think if they do go into Darth Malak and Darth Revan in some kind of series of their own, they're going to explore their backstories and their origin stories, and it's just nice to have the pre-Malak version, which is Squint, and one to consider. So Now we're getting into a few others that I've talked about in the past, but I hadn't given you an update on prices yet. But this one just ended yesterday, and wow, somebody got a great deal. This was Darth Vader #3, which is the first appearance of Dr. Aphra in a 9.8. This is the first printing. There's 4 different printings, plus the 1 in 25 Laraka ratio variant. That's very, very expensive. But this is the first printing. This is one I've got. I paid about $400 for mine. This one sold for $325. That is an absolute steal. If you can get that book in a 9.8 grade, the first printing for under $350, that to me is a fantastic deal, and I'd pay that all day long. But that was one that sold. This is another one that also sold recently. That sold at $380 plus $10 shipping. So that gives you a pretty good price range, $325 to $380 plus shipping. Let's call it $325 to $400. But you know, closer to that $300 number, that's a great deal if you can pick it up for that, because for a while there, you got up to like $550 or so. And it's come back down, and I think it's because there's just so many of them out there. There's just a lot of these first printings out there. If you want to go more exclusive, or you know, less in the 9.8 ratio, or less on the census, look at the third printing. Look at the fourth printing, especially. The fourth printing goes for about $800 or so. The third printing goes for about $500. Those two have a lot lower print runs. Or you can get the 1 in 25, but you're talking about $2,000 for the 1 in 25 Laraka cover variant. So, to me, if you got the budget for it, go for the third or the fourth print, or just get this one if you want to, something that's really relatively inexpensive, but I think is a good book to have in your collection long term, because there's no telling when they're going to bring Dr. Aphra out, either in an appearance in an existing show, or in my opinion, she makes a perfect protagonist for her own show. It's just a matter of time. We'll see her eventually. I promise you that. Going back to Kanan, we've got Kanan #6, which is the first full appearance of Sabine Wren and the rest of the Rebels. We obviously have talked in the past about how Sabine, I keep saying Sabine Wren has been cast for the Ahsoka series, and she's apparently going to make a pretty big appearance there. This book has heated up a little bit. It was around $600, which is about what I paid for my 9.8. But now it's going for about $700 to $750. This one just sold at $750 a couple days ago. So if you're hot on the Rebels team, this is a book to get. I don't know if it's necessarily going to cool off, though. A lot of folks like Team CGC 9.8, he thinks it might cool off, and you might get it closer to $500. I don't think you'll see $500 for this book. I don't think it'll go back down that low. I think if you can get it closer to $600, that'd be great. But I don't see it going back to $500. There's just no way. This is a $600 and above book, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. I said the same thing about Dr. Aphra, Dr. Aphra's first appearance book. When she got down to $400, I was like, oh, this is a screaming buy. I'm going to buy it. So I bought it at $400. I was like, there's no way it's going to go below $400. And for about a month or two, I was right there, because it bounced off of that $400 number and went up to like $500 again. And now it's back down to $325. So I think it's just because there's been a lack of rumors out there for her. But I've been shocked that she's come back down that low. So maybe I'm proven wrong. But I think if you can get this book closer to $600, that's a great deal, in my opinion. Here's another one that I haven't really talked about, but this is the lower ratio variant for Darth Maul #2. This is the David Aja cover. We obviously just talked about him as it relates to Hawkeye and the Hawkeye series, and all the kind of the controversy related to his artwork being kind of used in the TV show. But he also made this Darth Maul #2 cover that is very, very exclusive. I didn't look up the census on this, but I can tell you it's a lot lower than the other one I have. I have the standard cover. This is the first appearance of Cad Bane, and Cad Bane is going to be most likely making an appearance in the Book of Boba Fett, is my guess, or maybe the Mandalorian season 3. I don't know. There's just been too much heat out there for that book, but I couldn't believe this list price. It was at $2,400. I had seen it closer to $2,000, but this was listed at $24.99. Best offer accepted. I don't know what the final sales price was. I would assume it's closer to the $2,000 number where this one is typically sold. But if you can find the regular cover for this one, that one goes for about, let's call it $350 to $450. But if you got the deep pockets, this is the one to get. This is, I believe, the 1 in 25 ratio variant with the David Aja variant cover. But it's a really nice cover. Both of them are very nice, in my opinion. I think Cad Bane's got a lot of potential in live action. He's obviously made big appearances already in the Bad Batch cartoon show, as well as in Star Wars Rebels and so forth. So I think that he's got a big chance to make a big impression on the live action shows as well. Here's another one that is kind of not a key issue necessarily, but it's a great cover, and it's one I talked about and said, hey, you might want to consider picking this one up. And the prices have held really strong for Forces of Destiny. This one's focused on Hera Syndulla, so if you don't have the budget for Kanan number 6, which is her first full appearance, this one is a good one to consider. It's $100. It's got her and Chopper on the cover. Great cover, and it's a pretty low print run too. So that's another one to consider if you want something that's a little less expensive, but still a great cover and still very collectible, because the CGC census for this one is very low in terms of the number of copies that have been graded so far. It might be because people are sitting on them, but I think it's because it's a lower print run, in my opinion. It's an IDW book, much lower print run than Marvel books. And then the other Forces of Destiny book has got Ahsoka and Padme. This one goes for a little bit more money. This one sold for $260. That's a little high. I've seen that one sell for a lot less than that. I've seen some signed examples sell, signed by Ashley Eckstein, the voice actor for Ahsoka in the Clone Wars show, that have sold for big money. But $260 is probably a little high for that book. I think you can get closer to $200. But these are, the Forces of Destiny books are great virgin covers. They're IDW, so they're lower print runs, and they offer you some cheaper alternatives if you don't want to pay the big money for the first appearance books. Heir to the Empire is another book that I picked up recently. This one was listed at $16.50, best offer accepted. That's kind of where it's been going. I got mine in an auction on Comic Link for $1,200, but it's been consistently selling on eBay for closer to $1,500 to $1,600. So I'm guessing that's where this one closed out at. There were some scuffed up books and things like that have sold cheaper than that, but just keep in mind that the cases on those were pretty beat up. But anyway, Grand Admiral Thrawn, I still think there's a lot of room for this book to grow. And if you don't want to spend that kind of money, though, obviously the books that we've covered already at length, Thrawn number 1, his origin, the start of his origin book, that's still consistently selling at $200. There's one for sale right now. You sold one, there's still one available. $200 plus $15 shipping. That's a screaming buy. I've thought about buying it, to be honest with you. I actually added it to my watch list because I really think about it. I'm really thinking about getting that other one, even though I've already got one. Now, this is another one that I don't know if I've necessarily talked about, but Thrawn number 3 from that same series is the first appearance of Governor Price, Arenda Price. She has a really big role in one of the trilogies from Timothy Zahn, and I could see her making an appearance. It won't be a big appearance, though. It won't be like Admiral Arlani, which is from this book, Star Wars Thrawn number 6. Now, if you remember, as an update from my last video, I mentioned that this book has been selling for $150 to $250. This one was just listed at $400 and best offer was accepted. So this book is jumping like crazy. I paid $112 for this less than 2 months ago on Comic Link, and now we're seeing stuff get listed for $400 and selling. So I still think that number is way too high. $250 and under is probably a fair number right now. Really, $180 and under would be a fair number. But I could not believe when this got listed at $400. I was like, good luck selling. But I would love for 130point.com to work, because I'd love to see what that final sales price was, because that is way high, way high. But those are some other keys for Thrawn. If you don't want to spend the big money on Heir to the Empire number 1, look at Thrawn number 1, obviously. Thrawn number 3, the first comic book appearance of Governor Price, or Thrawn number 6, the first appearance of Admiral Arlani, because I think she will have a big role, unlike Governor Price. I think Governor Price will be a minor character if she makes an appearance on the live action shows, but Admiral Arlani, totally different story, and the prices reflect that in the books. Another one that we've talked about but hadn't had an update on prices yet, this is Rise of Kylo Ren number 3, which is the first cameo appearance of Avar Kriss from the High Republic universe. That universe is rumored to be in production for a movie, and this book is really kind of held steady at the same price. This one sold for $103. This one sold for $118, so that gives you a pretty good range for that book. It's an epic cover, and Avar Kriss is one of the main characters one of the main heroes from the High Republic universe. I think that's a really good buy. It's one, I don't have it yet, but it's one I want to get. I've got Rise of Kylo Ren number 2, which is the first mention of the High Republic universe in comics, but it's the first mention of an era. I mean, come on, whatever. That's not going to do anything, long term. Whereas this book will. I think that book's got a lot of potential to be a $200 book very, very quickly. Also from the High Republic universe, This is another recent sale for the first full appearance of Marchion Ro, the villain. This is Star Wars The High Republic Adventures $2 from IDW. Another good one that I don't have, this is the 1-in-10 ratio variant that just sold for $120 plus $12 shipping. So let's call that $125 now. This was an $80 book, like a month ago. So it's moving up. It's moving up. So just keep an eye on that one. Two more. We've got this one. This is a High Republic #7. I think this is the other big villain to keep an eye out for, and that's Darth Maul. This is his first comic book appearance, and also his first comic cover appearance. This is the Mike Mayhew variant cover A. I picked this one up for $75, and now this one just sold for $150 plus shipping. So it's moving up. It's moving up. I think that might go down as a little bit of an overpay. If you're going to pay $150, get the cover B, the variant cover B. That's the virgin cover. And there's also a variant cover C, that's the shadow version. But I like the cover A and the cover B the best myself, but $150 is a little high. I think you can probably pick that up closer to $100. And then for the virgin cover variant cover B, maybe $125, somewhere in that range. But that's one to keep in mind, because Darth Maul is going to be probably the other major villain. I mean, there's three really big villains in the High Republic universe to keep an eye on. You got Marchion Ro, you got his right-hand woman, Lorna D, and then you got Darth Maul. We don't know a lot about Darth Maul yet, but I think that those are the three big villains. So if you're into villain first appearance comics in the Star Wars universe, those are the three big villains to keep an eye on. One of the other big heroes to keep an eye on within the High Republic universe is Ty York. She is a monster hunter. She is a Jedi that walked away from the Jedi Order while in mid-training as a Padawan. And she became a monster hunter and like a gun for hire. Very Han Solo-esque, but she's still handy with a lightsaber from her past training. She's a reluctant hero. She's got a great kind of backstory within the novels. And her first comic book appearance was The Monster of Temple Peak #1. And that one just came out, I think, in August, if I remember right. Yeah, August of this year. It's selling for about $60 to $65 in a 9.8 grade. I've got 3 of them. Excuse me, I think I've got 3 of them at CGC now, so hopefully I get at least one 9.8 out of them. But that's a character that I think that you really want to keep an eye on, because I think she's got a lot of potential. Very Han Solo-esque with her kind of demeanor and, reluctancy to be a hero. Very kind of gray area in terms of her morals. So, and it's a great cover too. I really like that cover a lot. It's dark though, so it's really, I have a feeling that this book could go down as one that has a low CGC 9.8 ratio because it's so dark and difficult to get in a 9.8. So maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of give you a broader snapshot of what's going on in the market, for both modern Star Wars keys as well as some of the vintage keys that we all know and love. I hope that you found this information handy, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. To all my existing subscribers, thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.